about that. I had to deal with some cats real quick. Okay, so here's another example. So the picture that you have in your notes, which is how it got copied, might be kind of hard to see. So um, this is a stained glass window, and so I just redrew it without the pretty designs in there just to see it better, but then I wrote all over it, so it's kind of hard maybe for you to see. But they tell us that the diameter is 30 and that the chord KM is 22 inches long, and we want to find JL. So, and L is right here. I don't know, you can't see it. I think I drew over it. So if the whole entire diameter is 30, then each radius is 15. And so what you have to do for this problem and many problems like this is you need to add a radius right here to JK. Because all radii in a circle are congruent. So if the radius is 15, then JK is 15. They told us that KM was 22, and since this is perpendicular, like it was shown in the picture, it's bisecting it, so it's 11. So then this length of JL we could find using the Pythagorean theorem. So this is something that's going to come up a lot in these problems. You're going to have to add a diameter somewhere. Add a radius somewhere, and then use the Pythagorean theorem to find a missing segment length. So that's this problem right here. When you're using the Pythagorean theorem, when we talk about an exact versus an approximate answer, the exact answer would be the radical form of your answer in simplest radical form. So this says 4 times 26. I don't know if you can see that. So 104 is equal to 4 times 26. I don't know if you can see the multiplication dot right there. So it simplifies to 2 rad 26. And then the approximate answer is then you stick it into your calculator and get an approximate answer. So there you go. So here's another example like this. Okay, so again on yours you don't have this radius drawn. So you would draw the radius on there. This US is 5 and SR is 6. So that means the whole entire radius is 11. So when you add a radius here, that's also 11. So we have 6 squared plus x squared, or whatever you want to call it, equals 11 squared. And then that's how you get the length of segment TV, right? So this right here is square root of 85. TV would be double that because this is perpendicular, so it's bisecting it, and so that's how we got TV equals 18.44. Okay, and then the last big idea in this section is, again, in the same circle or in congruent circles, two chords are going to be congruent to each other if and only if they're equidistant from the center. And when we talk about equidistant from the center, we're saying it's the same, this chord is the same distance from the point that is the center of the circle. And if you remember back from, I don't know, really early on in the year, when we talked about the distance between a point and a line, it's always the perpendicular distance. So when you see something that looks like this, we're talking about the length of segment LX is how far this chord is from the center of the circle. So some examples for this, okay? So it tells us that we have congruent chords. So what does that mean, right? It must mean that the two chords are equidistant from point A because that's the center of the circle. And we know it's the center of the circle because it was named circle A, okay? So what does that mean? It means 5x is equal to 3x plus 4. And then you go ahead and solve and you get x equals 2. And the question asked you for the length of segment AB, and so we get 10. Okay? And then again, for this next one, we know that these two chords are equidistant from the center H because they're both 8 units away. So that means the chords are congruent, so that means 3x minus 4 is 14. And we end up solving that equation and getting x equals 6. Okay, so then here's just a couple more examples. I think they're pretty straightforward. I just redrew this triangle here, down here, because it's a little hard to see, and then it's this 30, 60, 90 triangle, so it's just easier for me to work with that one. So there's this problem, And then in this class, in C block, we didn't get to these. But again, both of these are, the chords are equidistant from the center, again, because we have these perpendicular segments from the center to the chord. So the chords are equidistant from the center, so then the chords must be congruent to each other. So then that means 3x equals 7x minus 20, which I believe when you solve that equation, you would get x equals 5. Okay? And then similarly here, they tell us we have congruent chords, and then we want to know about Kn and Kp. Well, if the chords are congruent, they must be equidistant from the center. So that means Kn equals Kp, so I believe that would give us x is 3. No, hold on. Oh yeah, 3. Okay, so x is 3. Okay, and lastly, I think we will talk about this question maybe when I come back and see you next week in class. So I hope this works out. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be here today, but I know you ladies will help each other out and just do the best you can and try your homework, and we'll go over it next week. Thanks.